Welcome. In front of me I have the, well, I would expect brand new Poco X4 Pro, and today I'll go over unboxing along with a quick overview of this device. So I'll start off right away by saying I just unboxed the M4 Pro, also Poco obviously, and that device was a little bit cheaper, a little bit less of everything, so I'm kind of excited for this one. This comes at around 300 euros, so it's, I would say, fairly decently priced to actually compete with a lot of the things. One of my gripes with the cheaper version of this, the M4 Pro, was the fact that it offered a little bit too little for the price. So it was outperformed by other devices, older ones, like flagship older devices, that would come around the same price as this device. So as an example, let me just bring it up right here, there we go. So this is the M4 Pro. And this has like a 64 megapixel camera, 90 Hz refresh rate, 1080p resolution, AMOLED display, and trust me, it's going to be outperformed by this one. This is the Huawei Mate 20 Pro, and this is by now like what, 3-year-old device, and comes around the same price. The only thing that it's lacking is the higher refresh rate of like 90 Hz that this device has. If you don't mind that, this will perform way better, and also comes with a Play Store because it's an older Huawei, unlike the new ones. So this, hopefully, or not hopefully, but I think is going to be better than the than what I suggested looking into instead of the M4. So anyway, let's get straight to it and open it up. So right off the bat, we're looking at right here. Once I take it out, a fairly decently spec'd device. It's kind of weird, it's upside down. Okay, whatever. So let's take that out. Now in here we're gonna have a case, most likely. Yep, there we go. Typical Xiaomi fashion, so I like that. So there it is, the case. Then we get the phone itself in a fairly nice color. I kind of like this. Anyway, I'm gonna turn it on. I'll move this out of the way for now. There we go. Then under here we got a wow, nice charger. So this is a, as you can see, 67-watt charger. So a hefty unit right here for charging, comes included with the device, so again, thumbs up, great. And then we got a Type-C to Type-A USB cable for charging, obviously. So it's basically all we get in the box, I think. Unless there's, nope, there's nothing in here. So yeah, that's all we get in the box. Now, before I go to the setup, let's look at what we get on the screen. So Poco X4 Pro, 120 Hz refresh rate, Full HD+, AMOLED dot display. I think what they mean by dot display, kind of, I kind of touched upon this on the M4 Pro as well. I think what they mean by that is just that it has a hole punched camera, because it's just an AMOLED display in all sense of purposes with the high refresh rate. In terms of cameras, we're looking at a 108 megapixel Pro grade main camera. These days it didn't say triple 64 megapixel cameras like they did on the M4, which only had one. Snapdragon 5 GHz processor, 67 watt turbo charging for 5000 mAh battery. All great. Anyway, let's just pop it open. Nice. Now tossed up to the side. No, damn, I actually really like this back. This looks slick. And overall, the actual like design of the phone, I really like it. It has a similar design to what I would say like the iPhones did. The, what is it, 12, 13, whichever one they were, where they were more like, they had these more rugged edges where it's just kind of like, as you can see, more boxy shape. So yeah, I do like it. It might not be as comfortable to hold in a hand for periods of time, but damn does it look good at the first glance. It looks more industrial. So anyway, let's go through the quick setup right here. So I'm gonna change my language. Now, one thing that I don't really like with Poco, or Xiaomi in this case, is usually they have the 60 Hz refresh rate set by default on all the devices instead of having it at whatever the phone can support. In this case would be 120. So that's, I don't know why. It would be nice if they changed it by default and then or give you an option to change it throughout the setup. But anyway, let's go through the specs right here. So in terms of the display, this is a 6.67 inch display, 1080p by 2400. It's an AMOLED display with 120 Hz refresh rate, HDR10, though it's not 10 plus, so it means that it technically supports HDR, but it's not certified. And we are looking at typical 700 nits brightness and 1200 peak brightness. All good specs on the display. In terms of screen to body ratio, 86% and 395 pixels per inch. So like I said, really good display right here, fairly nice. I also want to mention that the hole punch camera right here that we can see, if I can move my hand a little bit lower, there we go, is actually fairly small and minimal. So that's another thing that I want to point out. Some phones have a huge little hole punch camera, or as an example like my phone does, I have a huge notch, as you can see. That's not very appealing, doesn't look too great. So just a tiny little notch or hole punch camera looks really good here. So while this is setting up, I'm gonna flip it over to the back so we can get a look at the triple camera setup. So we're looking at main sensor of 108 megapixels wide. Then we're looking at, oh boy, no, not again. So it seems like it didn't stray too far away from the M4 Pro, the lower version of this, because it still has an 8 megapixel ultra wide and 2 megapixel macro. Now, 2 megapixel macro on the M4 Pro wasn't that bad compared to the 64 megapixel that it had, but here we have 108 megapixels main sensor. The 2 megapixel macro is absolutely useless here. There is zero reason for it to be included here. So anyway, let me actually put that to test, just so we can see this. But before I do, I'm gonna also put it in a case, just so if I drop it like a klutz, it's not gonna get damaged. There we go. Now the casing does take a little bit away from this nice feel in hand that you get when actually using this device. But one thing that I'll mention that I do find really useful right here is the camera notch, or bump, or whatever you want to call it right here. Even though the actual like 108 megapixel protrudes over the already protrusion right here, because this entire black thing right here already protrudes out of the phone, this is additional bump on here. But the case is designed that way that when you place it down, it's not actually gonna wobble. So really nice, thumbs up for that. Damn, I waited for this for so many years. So anyway, let's open up that camera like I mentioned. So right here we're looking at the main sensor right here. So it's going to be using 108 megapixel sensor, but on the normal photo mode it does scale it down. So if you want to use the full 108, you want to go into more and then select 108. So this is going to be the first shot. Okay, so this is the 108 megapixel with a 2x zoom, just so it's a little bit closer to what the macro will look like, and just so I could see how far I need to move it back before it actually starts catching sharpness, because if you have the camera too close, it's just going to be blurry. Anyway, so now that's taken, we're going to go into macro, which is not under more like you would expect. It's right here under photos. There are these 3 bars, and here you have super macro, apparently that's how it's called. Let's see what a super macro we get here. There we go, so there is our quotation mark super macro. Okay, so let's look at the photos. I'm gonna make it brighter. There we go. And oh my, that looks atrocious. What? Oh, this actually looks worse than the M4 Pro, hands down. I'm gonna try to take it again because this is beyond bad. See if this one improved. I think it might have a little bit, but no, it's still terrible. Hopefully you can get to look at how bad this looks like right here. It looks absolutely atrocious. So this is the super macro, and this is the 2x zoom of 108 megapixels. This actually also didn't come out too great. Let's try it again, because the photos are coming worse than I would expect right here. So I'm gonna try this once again. So this is going to be without the 2x zoom, just so we can get a look at. Guess we're gonna do it this way. Okay, so without the zoom it looks better, though doesn't look that great either. It's not bad. It's most certainly better than what the actual super macro shows. And just to put that in perspective, comparison, on my phone, the Mate 20 Pro, this is just what I use on a daily basis. That is my personal phone. I also have what it's called a super macro, though this is my super macro right here. So you can hopefully get to see the comparison at which we're looking at right here, like side by side. These two, let me actually flip this over or capture another one, just so. Wasn't flipping. That's weird. Okay, never mind, that's not weird. There we go. Nope, still doesn't want to flip. Interesting. So I don't know if you can see, but I'm trying to get the phone to actually flip into landscape, but it just doesn't want to. Whatever. Anyway, I'm just gonna move out of the cameras. I stuck on the cameras for a little bit too long. I was hoping that they would be better. On paper they are. Maybe just the lighting right here, so I'm gonna give it benefit of the doubt. But in terms of macro, there is not really a comparison right here. Ultra wide might be just okay. It is only 8 megapixels. The 108 megapixels should perform better than what I captured right here. On paper, this is 108 megapixels. It should capture way more detail. So hopefully just the lighting in here that it's kind of breaking the photo, and not the actual sensor being absolutely garbage. Now, anyway, let's move on to next thing, which is going to be the processor. Now this device actually uses a Snapdragon, so this is a Snapdragon 695, it's a 5G chipset, and apart from that we have a couple of variants of this device. So we have the 128 gigabyte storage and 256, and each one, 128 has a 6 gigs RAM, while the 256 comes with 8 gigs. So if you go for a higher model, you're gonna get more higher storage, you're gonna get a little bit more RAM, which I would consider a fairly decent thing. And obviously you also have expandable storage, so if you don't want to go for like 100 or 256, pay more, along with the more RAM, you can just go for the lower one. If 6 gigs is enough for you, that's great. You can just pop in an SD card and have more storage, so another great thing here. And last thing is, like I mentioned, we have right here a 5000 mAh battery, 67 watt charging, and it's advertised that it charges the device to 70% in 22 minutes and 41 minutes to full. Though this is advertised, obviously those advertisements mean that it's lab tested in some like absurd best conditions possible, so there is a chance that you're not gonna get the same result. There are also sometimes a chance that you're gonna get a better result. It really depends. I haven't tested it. As you see, I literally just unpacked the device, so I have no idea. And Outside of that, we don't have anything like super extra right here. We don't have wireless charging. We do have a fingerprint sensor, but it is mounted on the power button on the side. So that's a little bit of a shame. My personal preference is just under the display, though I know that that's not for everybody. That's just what I would prefer. And that's about it. We do have actually there's one more thing. We do have a headphone jack and also an IR blaster right here. IR blaster is designed so you can use your phone as a remote control, and there is a dedicated app for it right on the phone if you want to utilize that. So anyway, this being said, this would conclude like the overview of this device. And for 300 euros, which this device comes at, I have to say it checks a couple of the boxes really good. Design wise, it's really nice. It's appealing to me. It might not be obviously to everybody, but to me, I like the design of it. It would be probably one of the things that I primarily look at the device, just because I hold it and look at it for so long, it might as well look good. Second thing, the display. 120 Hz, which it's not turned on by default, so I would recommend you, once you get this device, to straight away head to the display, then head to refresh rate and just change it to 120, just so you can get that risky 120 Hz which you pay for. So that's another thing. Super high refresh rate right here, great AMOLED display, another amazing feature, with a fairly decent max brightness, HDR, though not certified. And that's primarily what I'd want. At one point I would be looking for camera quality. Hopefully this one checks it for some people. At least right now that I tested it, it didn't really check the boxes. It most certainly is outperformed by my old device. But at this point I don't really care that much for cameras. I just prefer my phone to work decently and have a high refresh rate. That's what I look for the device right now, and this would check all the boxes. So there we go. The device looks really nice, works fine, and I have no complaints about it. It's also competitively priced, so again, that's a really nice thing to see. So anyway, if you found this video helpful, don't forget to hit like, subscribe, and thanks for watching.